Damn fine show, chaps. Awfully glad you came along. It could have got sticky there for a moment. I thought Jerry might get through, and then I remembered I hadn't been to see my friends down at High House Insurance. Well, don't be like me. Make sure that when we get back to base, you go to High Street, Selsey, and check with the guys at High House Insurance. Make sure all your house insurance is up to date. Or you can telephone them on Selsey 606 552. Thank you, chaps. Tally-ho.
Hi and welcome once again to Selsey Internet Radio's podcast. My name's Keith Barnes, and the first item up on the show this week is What's On. Now that's where we take a weekly look at things that are going on in and around the village for your education and entertainment, and we start with Tuesday the 15th of September. Now unless you've been on your holidays for some considerable time or living underground, you can't fail to have noticed that there's to be a Battle of Britain commemorative flypast, and this is to be formed by over 40 Hurricanes and Spitfires. Now that's the biggest flight of Hurricanes and Spitfires put together since World War II, so it shouldn't be missed. Now down at the Selsey Centre there's a bit of a do going on. This has been put on by the council, so we like everybody down there waving their flags. We'll all go outside when the flight past comes and wave our flags for the guys up above and wish them on their way and a safe return. There will also be entertainment laid on. Sally Pace with the ukulele band will be there. Bobby Barnes will be there to lead a community sing-song with some old favourites from around the World War II period, so we can have a good old sing-song, good community spirit. So you need to get yourself down there in your hundreds. Doesn't matter if you have to stand outside, it's going to be a lovely day anyway. We need as many people as we can to gather there and have some real fun to commemorate the Battle of Britain. And to more mundane things, on Wednesday the 16th, Selsey Town Council Planning Committee are meeting in the Parish Hall at 7:30 p.m. So if you want to get down there and find out what's going to be built and where, well, that'll be a good place to start. Now, also on the 16th, the community choir starts at the Methodist Church Hall at 7 p.m. Now this runs for 12 weeks at a cost of £45 for the full course, or you can go along for a taster session and just give it a try and see how you get on, and that's only going to cost you £3, so that's cheap enough for that. On the 17th, Lighthouse is a youth group for young people in school years 5 to 8 from 6:30 to 7:45 at the East Beach Evangelical Church for only 50p a session, so that's cheap enough. You can go and do that, not a problem. On the 19th, there's a quiz night at the Methodist Church in High Street, and this starts at 6 p.m. and it's £5 a head, and that includes a ploughman's dinner and refreshments. And you can get your tickets for that from Amanda's Hobby Hideout in High Street. On Sunday the 20th, Selsey Academy PTA holds its car boot sale at the Academy, and that's 7:30 for sellers and 8 o'clock till 1 p.m. for buyers, and this of course is weather permitting, and we hope weather will be permitting. And on Monday, Singing in the Rain, this classic film will be showing at lunchtime in the town hall for the more senior members of our community. Oh, I was a bit choked back there because that must include me. Lunch will also be provided for attendees, and Selsey Cinema Club will be showing classic musicals twice a month with a lunch served by Julie's Kitchen. The Venture Bus will be available for members as well as the Selsey Shuttle, and bookings can be made at 6 at Selsey Information Exchange on 01243 201 616. Now on Tuesday the 22nd, there's 10 weeks of swing jive classes starting in the Methodist Church Hall at 7 o'clock, and it's just £4 a session, payable on the door. So come along and join a great night, and if you don't have a partner, well, they'll find one for you. So how bad's that? And you can put your knee joints out together. And that's about it for the coming week. We go across now to Keithy's Kitchen for a couple of mouth-watering recipes. Right, our first recipe today is great sausage casserole. Now this will serve 6, so you might need to invite a few friends round, or you could split it up, I suppose, and have some today and some for tomorrow. Anyway, this is what we need. 1 to 2 tablespoonfuls of sunflower oil, 12 good meaty pork sausages, 6 rindless streaky bacon rashers cut into 2.5 centimetre lengths, 2 medium onions thinly sliced, 2 garlic cloves crushed, a half to 1 teaspoonful of hot chili powder or smoked paprika, and that depends how much you want to put in, how much bite it's going to have. 1 400 gram can of chopped tomatoes, 300 ml of chicken stock, made with 1 chicken stock cube, 2 tablespoonfuls of tomato puree, 1 tablespoonful of Worcester sauce, 1 tablespoonful of dark brown muscovado sugar, 1 teaspoonful of dried mixed herbs, 2 bay leaves, 3 to 4 sprigs of fresh thyme, 100 ml of red or white wine, and the wine's optional, but not in my book it's not, 1 400 gram can of butter beans or mixed beans, some sea salt flakes, and some freshly ground black pepper. And this is what we do. We heat a tablespoonful of the oil in a large non-stick frying pan and fry the sausages gently for about 10 minutes, turning every now and then so they're nicely browned all over. Now, just a little tip, don't prick the sausages. The meat will work better with the fat and the sausages will stay juicy, so don't prick the sausages. Transfer to a large saucepan or flame-proof casserole dish and set aside. Next, fry the bacon pieces in the frying pan until they're beginning to brown and crisp, and add them to the sausages. Put the onions in the frying pan and fry over a medium heat for 5 minutes until they start to soften, stirring them often. Now you should have enough fat in the pan, but if not, add a little more oil. Add the garlic and cook for 2 to 3 minutes more until the onions turn pale golden brown, and stir them frequently, otherwise they'll burn. Now sprinkle over the chili powder or smoked paprika and cook together for a few seconds longer. Stir in the tomatoes, chicken stock, tomato puree, Worcester sauce, the brown sugar and the herbs. Pour over the wine or some water if you're not using wine and bring to a simmer. Now tip carefully into the pan with the sausages and the bacon. Return to a simmer, then reduce the heat, cover the pan loosely with the lid and leave to simmer very gently for about 20 minutes, stirring every now and then. And drain the beans and rinse them in a sieve under running water, and stir the beans into the casserole and continue to cook for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally until the sauce is thick. Adjust the seasoning to taste with some salt and pepper, and serve with rice or slices of rustic bread. Great sausage casserole. Just coming up with the right weather for that. And our next dish today is macaroni cheese. Lovely simple tasty dish. And this is what we need. 250 grams of macaroni, 50 grams of butter plus extra for greasing, 50 grams of plain flour, 500 ml of whole or semi-skim milk, 150 grams of mature cheddar cheese finely grated, 4 medium tomatoes finely sliced, some sea salt flakes and some freshly ground black pepper. And this is what we do. Preheat the oven to 200 degrees centigrade, that's gas mark 6. Half fill a large saucepan with water and bring it to the boil. Add the macaroni and return to the boil and cook for 8 to 10 minutes, or according to the packet instructions on the macaroni packet. Now while the pasta is cooking, prepare the sauce. Melt the butter in a medium non-stick saucepan over a low heat, then stir in the flour and cook for 30 seconds, stirring constantly. Gradually stir in the milk and bring to a gentle simmer. Cook for 3 minutes until the sauce is thickened and smooth, stirring constantly. Add roughly 2/3 of the cheese and season with salt and ground black pepper. Now cook for 2 to 3 minutes more and keep stirring, and add a little bit more seasoning if necessary. Drain the pasta in a large colander and return it to the pan, and gently stir in the hot cheese sauce until thoroughly combined. Now tip the macaroni cheese mixture into a large buttered oven-proof dish. A lasagna dish is ideal, and spread it to all the corners. Now at this stage you could if you'd like fry some button mushrooms in a little butter until golden and stir them into the cooked pasta, or you could add bits of bacon, fried bacon, to go with it. But that's up to you, it's a matter of taste, and you can do that at this stage. Sprinkle with half the remaining cheese and arrange the sliced tomatoes on top, discarding the ends. Now sprinkle with the rest of the cheese and add a couple of twists of ground black pepper and bake for 20 to 25 minutes until the tomatoes are softened and the cheese is lightly browned. And you can serve this with some lovely fresh bread and butter. making my mouth water. And that's it for this week. And we go across now to Mike Nicholls, and Mike's going to give us a few updates on bits and bobs that are happening in and around the village.
I'm pleased to be able to share some of the news of things that are coming up in Selsey after what I'm sure all would agree has been an excellent summer with some great festival highlights. At the Bridge Youth Support Centre, we have begun the new term with a number of activities that are designed for particular age groups of young people. For instance, on a Tuesday after school, we've begun a new activity club called The Zone. It's for young people in Year 6, that's the top year at the primary schools, or Year 7 and 8 at the academy. And the intention is to try and help those age groups to mix together in a variety of activities that include art and drama, sporting opportunities, as well as conversation. Anyone is welcome to come. It's £1 for the 2 hours. If you're an adult, you might be interested on a Thursday afternoon coming in for a session that's entitled How is Your Well-Being? And it's just really looking at our lives and seeing how we might reduce the stress and increase the amount of happiness that we enjoy. For anything that we're running at the Bridge, you're welcome to phone us on 07508 716 037. On a completely different topic, you may be interested to know that there is a working group who are looking at the possibilities of a direct cycle route between Selsey and Chichester. A proposal's been drawn up and a route's been identified to the west of the B2145, and I'm sure any of you who've sat behind cyclists or those who try and cycle on what we all agree is a dangerous road would welcome an off-road but fairly direct route. It's being worked on. In a very simple way, from next week we're able to offer a computer class for those who might be beginning their internet experience. Held at the Academy School on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock. It's open to any adults and you're welcome again to book in on the normal phone number. On a completely different topic, the local medical centre have been working with Belinda Gannon to develop something called Singing for Health. It's being funded and therefore you'll be able to come, whether you can sing or not, just make a noise that might be good for your health. There'll be details soon about when and where that will take place. If you're a little more vocal, the community choir will be starting in the next few days, and if you're very energetic, there is going to be a regular jive session. Again, if you're looking ahead, Christmas is coming. And just a reminder that as well as all the Christmas festivities and the lights and so on, we are again putting on a Christmas Day lunch for those who might otherwise be on their own. It's being held in the town hall, and we have a meeting on the 24th of September at 6 o'clock at the fire station for anyone who might like to get involved in volunteering for that event. I'm glad to say that the church at East Beach has now been able to appoint a specialist youth worker, and they're starting up a number of early evening clubs for young people. You might like to have a look at their website for details. Finally, as we bring this rather diverse list of activities to an end, if you ever feel that you would like information, from now on, every week, there will be in the window of the Selsey Information Exchange in Penny Lane by Grumpy's Cafe a list of the activities that are on for that week. So you can just have a look and see immediately what's coming up. That list will be compiled from our community diary, where we invite everyone, both in print and online, to enter in the events that they're planning and make sure that they don't clash with anything else that's already in the diary. We live in a community where there is so much going on and we're so grateful for it. It's good to share the information. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Mike. There's some very interesting information there, especially the cycle path. Now, west of the B2145, does that mean you have to ride through Pagham Harbour Nature Reserve? Or, well, maybe you need a snorkel for that. But it's going to be a great thing if it happens. Excellent thing if it happens. and I'm sure we'll catch up with you with some more updates in the not too distant future. I have in the studio with me now our dear old friend, raconteur extraordinaire, Ellis Berg, and Ellis is going to tell us a story, and it's called Voices.
Of course, it wasn't the only time he'd done it. Nevertheless, he regretted it, as he always did. He got out of bed, put on his slippers and slid, pace by pace, to the window. He carefully eased the sash upwards, his hands through the curtains, keeping them together so that he was hidden from the sight of any passer-by or watcher. He listened for the voices. "Help me! Help me!" Always the same voices in the plural, the plea and the singular. And it was always the same when he looked. Nothing. He left the window open, snuffing the night air, and eased himself back into bed. His wife stirred a moment, but stayed asleep. Relief that he would not have to explain again was enough for sleep to return, and in the morning he said nothing about his repetitious behaviour. "Obsessive compulsive disorder," said his wife, after the fourth time he'd risen in the night. It had been some time before she'd noticed what was happening, but one night she did, and she spoke her mind as always. "Oh, come on, I'm not washing my hands all the time, and I don't count steps or always start with the left foot. Now do I? No, that's true. But I'm beginning to worry about you. So what are you looking for? It's every night, isn't it? Oh Lord, is it every night? I haven't counted. Oh, there you are. I'm not counting. No OCD. A deep breath from his wife. She was sitting on the side of their bed, the reading light on, shadows on their faces. "All right, I'm wrong about the label, but there's something wrong with you. You really ought to get it off your chest, you know. You're obviously worried about something. Now I'm worrying too. Good job the children don't live near. We'd have them here in a flash, all being helpful, suggesting all sorts of therapies. Come to think of it," she looked at him and then down at her hands. "Don't you dare," he laughed, picturing his daughters looking serious, full of the latest stuff from Google. No, but..." He rested his hand on her shoulder. "Wait till the morning and we'll talk about it." That had been the week before, and still he hadn't said anything much. He knew he had to reveal his mind to his wife. The trouble had started with a silly programme on television, a series about ghost hunting. A group, or sometimes one or two people, went to a haunted house and sat up all night in the dark, watching and waiting, and waiting, and still waiting. Sometimes there was a phenomenon, investigated after a fashion or explained away. Sometimes there was nothing, usually nothing. There was, however, a problem for the viewer. It was, frankly, riveting, difficult to turn away. And always there was the hope that next time something would happen, a real ghost, a voice from the past. All the time, in the shadows, inside the old rectory or manor house or whatever venue that was suitably gloomy, a lone figure sat or wandered. Quite alone, except, that is, for the camera crew, the sound crew, the studio manager, the voiceover. Intellectually visible. Emotional? Well, prickly. Unfortunately, it was also what might be called spiritually invasive to a suitably suggestible subject. And that subject had to be Tim, but not Jessie, his wife, a no-nonsense shop manager. All she said was, "Tush, can't think while you're watching," and went to bed. Tim followed quickly, not wanting to be alone. The programme had been about mysterious voices feebly crying to make themselves understood. The presenter-watcher tried hard to interpret the sounds and asked the viewers to help the ghostly callers. "See if you can get onto their wavelength," she had said. Wavelength? What wavelength? Thought Tim. But the voices still impressed him. Jessie declared it was a trick on the part of the producers. For goodness sake, they can do anything for an effect these days. Look at Doctor Who. Do you think the TARDIS is really bigger inside than out? Oh, come on, love, use your brains. It's entertainment, for God's sake. Anything goes. And you're always telling me never to believe anything I hear and only half what I see, especially on TV and the internet. That was when she had swept off to bed. Tim was still thoughtful about the programme. It had not been put on as mere entertainment, he was quite sure. It had been presented as a sort of documentary, an actuality. The experts had been cited as the academics of the spiritual world, of the other side, who seemed to be totally sincere in their investigations and not to be dismissed as creatures of deceit. He remembered as he cuddled down under the quilt that he'd been asked to tune in, as it were, to the wavelength of the voices. There were people, the presenter had said, who had the gift. Do I have it? Thought Tim. He opened his mouth to say good night to Jessie and then noticed a ladylike murmur that passed for her snoring. She was comfortably sleeping, quite unaffected by that ridiculous programme. Is it a ridiculous programme, he wondered? Could it be tested? Subjected to the rigours of experiment? Not a controlled experiment, obviously, but a test of sorts. Try and see if anything happens. If nothing happens, it only means, first, that it's nonsense, or secondly, that I haven't the gift, or thirdly, that the voices don't want to call to me. Is there a fourthly? I don't know, thought Tim, and fell asleep. Help me! Help me! He sat up quickly, wide awake, eyes over, the quilt swung aside, feet into slippers automatically, up at the windows, hand on the sash. A voice behind him said, "What is it, my darling? Tell me, tell me!" He slid up the sash and leaned out, looking up left and right. Again, nothing. I heard them. I tell you I heard them. Surely you did too. They woke me. They need me. He sobbed and turned to face Jessie. She held him in her arms, almost sobbing herself. My poor darling, come back to bed. It's just a dream, isn't it? Her soothing tones calmed him for a moment and then, "But you must have heard them. I was awake when they called. They didn't wake me. I wasn't dreaming, Jessie. Honestly, I was as awake as you see me now." And the tears flowed as he was eased back to bed and hugged and caressed until he slept again. The next morning, Jessie opened the discussion. "Tim, facts have to be faced. You're ill." "There, now I've said it. At last." "No, you don't need to say anything. You need help. And my darling, you're going to get it." No argument because..." Yes, she laughed rather too lightly. "If you don't need it soon, I shall, and I don't think the headmaster will be keen on a deputy head having a nervous breakdown. It might be a reflection on him." Tim said, "Jessie, I need help, all right, but not the kind you have in mind." "In mind?" Tim laughed. "Sorry about the pun, but you know what I mean." Jessie was straight-faced when she said, "I've phoned our GP and he set the ball rolling for your psychiatric help. If you need any other kind, just let me know what you think you need, and I'll back you to the hilt. We both need all the help we can get." And Tim wasn't sure if the "we" was a genuine expression of her feelings or put in as a sort of douceur to encourage him to fall in with her plans for his treatment. Whatever it was, he felt a need for a way of ending the nightly torture of the voices. If only he didn't care, was unheeding at the desperation of their cries, and they were calling individually. They had no comfort in shared misery, only disheartening loneliness. He could neither remove their pain nor the cause of their pain. All he could do was to try to find them and listen. Perhaps then he could solve the mystery and give himself and them the peace they so obviously needed. The GP was brisk, efficient and sympathetic. He gave them a double appointment, a promise of a hospital consultant, "An excellent man, you'll like him," and a prescription. In the meantime, Jessie busied herself with the internet and all the websites she could find. She also had a very guarded conversation with friends who had friends of friends with mental problems. She did not, however, ask if any of her friends had any experience in matters supernatural. None of them had had dealings with spiritualism of any kind, or if they had, they didn't say so. And Jessie was not the kind of person you would confide such matters to. The children, Claire and Paddy, both teachers, were sympathetic and suitably humorous. They knew their father could appreciate a bit of mild banter. "I hear you're in two minds about schizophrenia," said Paddy. "Oh, please," my nanny dropped me laughing at that one. "And you broke your fall from it with your head." This from Claire. "When you two have had your fun," Jessie this time. "Dad, how far have you got with this problem? Mum's told us what's been happening, so what's the plan so far?" A shrink, a drink and someone to think. How's that for starters? And then we'll see." "Is that all?" "There's a word. It's patient. It has two meanings. What I am and what you must be." We kept quiet after that. A good lunch by Jessie, good wine by Paddy and Claire, and good coffee brewed in a cafetiere by Tim. They kissed their parents farewell, rather subdued, not their usual lightheartedness. Paddy and Claire had not been making just a family visit. They'd brought the names of a few people who could help in the event that the usual services seemed to miss the mark. They knew their father was not a run-of-the-mill case. There'd never been any sign of illness before. The psychotherapist was helpful. She listened carefully to his account of all that had happened since the TV programme. Luckily, a professional interest led her to view the programme, and she helped Tim to make a careful analysis of what he had seen, or what his perception of it had been. Tim anticipated our next set of questions. "You're going to ask me if there's any incident in my childhood when I failed to give help or abandoned somebody." I've tried hard to recall all the memories of those days, but short of asking my late mother, well, it is a time I will be approaching, but a forgotten trauma can be a cause of illness. Perhaps something will trigger that memory and then we'll be on our way. The return home was an anticlimax. He really hoped that something would be revealed, that there would be a flashing insight and the torture would stop. He now knew nothing like this would happen. Life would still be a repetition of sleep, wakening, the voices, Jessica's concern, and perhaps sleep. That night, something did happen. Lying in bed, thinking about the advent of the voices, he was suddenly surprised by a purposeful Jessie. She slipped into bed, smelling of her favourite scent. "Tonight," she murmured, "you are going to sleep the night right through. It's the best I can do, but I think you will approve of my attempts at therapy. Stay perfectly still and leave everything to me. You're going to have a very active half hour or so, and we are going to share your worries. I want to feel what you are feeling, and this is my way of doing it." She fell by his side and then put her hands on his body so that he could do no other than to echo her actions. They breathed together, slowly at first, then faster. Afterwards, she held him in her arms and slowly resumed her wooing. "I want to know what it is that is destroying you. Come to me, my darling, and let me feel your agony." Tim sleepily responded, slower this time but longer. "My darling, I must know what it is you're hearing. My body needs to know, for heaven's sake, not just my mind." Afterwards, Jessie sat up, looking at her now exhausted but contentedly sleeping form of her husband, and listened to his breathing. He was, she knew, finally at peace. She could tell there would be no more voices. As she happily looked, she heard a sound, more than the steady sound of Tim's breathing. She listened, and in terror crept naked to the window, threw up the sash, and in the bright light of the full moon stared searchingly and heard, "Help me! Help me!"
Well, thank you to Ellis there for his story voices. And talking of help me, Selsey Internet Radio are still looking for some volunteers to help with production or with presentation of their internet podcast. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. You can email us at studio.selseyinternetradio@gmail.com, or you can text us or even telephone us on 07551 93019. And that's about it for this week. And that just leaves me to say thank you to our guests Mike Nicholls and Ellis Berg, and to our producer John Fletcher. This is Keith Barnes saying thanks for listening. Have a happy and healthy week, and see you again next week. Bye bye now.